Hello. In this video, I'm going to cover what it might be like to enter a new THP unit using Atlas 3 and just highlight some of the powers and capabilities of Atlas 3, some of its benefits, and how you might best utilize it. So let's jump right in here. Disclaimer though, I'm not a trained forester, so your workflow is probably going to be different, and you will probably find errors with the way that I'm building these, but should at least be good for an overview. Okay, so first you can kind of notice here up at the top left, it shows you what geo you're using. A geo is kind of synonymous with a project. It's a series of shapefiles that you've loaded into Atlas 3, and that's what you're using as your GIS data. So the geo just kind of describes what you're working with. Right now we're working on the Lassen 2021 update geo. So this is a deliverable from Alpine, and this would be something that you get right before you start your next THP. So this is just a fresh delivery, and we're going to jump into it and pretend we're building some units here. So um, you can see here that I have some planning units on. Those are over here in the layer tree as well. And you can turn them on here in the layer tree, turn them off. There's also kind of a quick shortcut way to do that, which is to right click. This context menu shows up and it shows you everything that's in that area. So as I right click around, you'll see maybe that there's some more layers or less layers. So in this area, I can see that there are planning units available, and to turn those on, you can just click on that. To turn them off, you can hold shift and click on it, and they'll go off. So it's kind of a shortcut way. It's also really useful if you're looking for something that you know should be in an area. You don't have to go through the whole layer tree to find a shapefile that's already present. So I like doing that. So now we can see that we've got all these planning units. And let's select one, and we're just going to turn that into our first THP unit. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I want to kind of pick some stuff that's going to need some modification, things that are close to class 3s or class 2 streams. Of course, something that has road access would be nice. These units here obviously had access recently, so let's just check this real quick. So this is road seasonal classification. It's got a name on it. Looks like it's probably usable. We could check the orthos, verify that. Most likely you probably already know that that road's functional. But let's turn on the orthos using this ortho here. So I'm using the 2021 orthos. And there's a whole host of options in here. We've got hill shades, got some satellite imagery. This list may vary depending on your district, but we've got slope information in here as well. So these orthos are stored on either on your local drive or potentially on like a shared drive, Z drive, F drive, something like that. So we can pop those on, get a feel for the land real quick. Yeah, you could even use this flicker control right here. This just turns everything on or off, so you can get a quick view of the bare ground. All right, let's turn those off. So I think this is going to be my first unit. So I'm just going to select this planning unit. Looks like a good one. We're at area 23 acres. I could see pretty quickly if I'm going for something around 20 acres that will probably work, since we're going to need to cut out a lot of this harvest boundary, being that it's close to a class 3, and we're going to give that 50 feet of protection, assuming that this is some sort of a ESU watershed, or there's need for protection on that class 3. So let's go ahead and copy that over, head a geographic copy. So I'm using keystrokes to do that. As you can see, if I hit the Alt key, it activates this menu drop down. So Alt, Edit, Geographic Copy. And you can use your pointer or your mouse for that if you want. Atlas is really heavily driven by keystrokes, and as you learn those, it does speed things up quite a bit. So I'm going to copy that feature over to a new layer. Click OK, and we'll just call this sample THP. So that's the name of the new layer. It's going to be a polygon. Click OK. And so now you can see we have this new layer over here, sample THP. And for now, I think I'll turn my planning units back off. And let's play with the settings a little bit here. It's kind of hard to see. Um, I'm going to put no fill on this. So it's just got a border. And we can change the border color. Something easy to work with. Maybe red or something obvious. Well, we've got some other stuff around there that's red. Let's make it orange, I guess. Make it a little bit thicker. Okay, so here's our first proposed unit. Okay, so let's add some attribute data in here. So our first unit, you can click on these regen units over here. I think for this purpose, I'll just copy this information for now just to kind of give it something. So I'm going to just copy feature information here. I'll go to this other layer. I'm just doing that right click to select that. And then I'll just paste that in here. And we could mess with this. The C6 is the cut year, so that's not going to be filled. And no, that's 2017. C6 should be number. Actually, you know what? If we're confused, well, let's figure this out. Let me save that real quick. We've got feature info. We've got this help drop down here, so I don't know what my attributes are supposed to be, so I just hit that. Sorry, I'm going a little too fast there. Help standardized attributes is going to open up in Excel, and it will tell us everything we need to know about attributes. So we're working on technically a regen layer, so that means C6 for regen is the unit number. Okay, that was a big unit number on that. Let me check that again. That's interesting. Unit number 1896. Interesting. Okay. Well, this unit number is going to be 1. It's our first unit number. It's not a part of this THP. So we'll just clear that out. That'll be what we start with for now. Okay, so now let's do a little bit of editing. I know I'm going to have to cut this back from the stream because we're not going to be harvesting up there, but first let's take another look at the lay of the land here. Okay, not much going on there. Put on the contours. Contours are showing maybe the stream. Yeah, it doesn't look like the stream's following it too perfectly there. Let's check the hillshade. Hillshade's based off of 1 meter data, so that's pretty accurate data. Turn that on. Okay, so at a glance, I would say this stream seems to be pretty far off. Of course, you could validate that in the field, but since we're going to be doing this all here, I'm just going to go ahead and move this stream right now. It'd be a good example of commonality. So commonality, what we refer to as commonality, is basically snapping of features, but it's sort of a permanent snap. You can break commonality in a couple different ways, but for this it's kind of perfect because we have this regen unit polygon that's bordering this stream right here. Now I just went into edit mode on this stream, but what's important to know here is that these two features are in common because they share all of the same vertices. So it looks like there might be a vertice right here because it's not blue, so I kind of want to check that. Yeah, sure enough, vertice number 9 is actually out of common, so we're kind of getting into the weeds here, but because I'm going to be going and moving all this, I'm going to go ahead and add this vertice in. So I'll go through all those keystrokes that I just did to make that happen, but I just wanted to clean that up right now before I start moving things. So this is kind of cool. So I can either edit my polygon or my stream, and to finally get to the point with commonality, what that means is everything will stay in common when I move it. So multiple layers that share vertices will stay, basically keep those shared vertices throughout an edit. So I'm going to just show that by editing this polygon, which is in common with this stream. And I just double clicked on that feature, which what that technically does is take you into edit geographic vertex move. So with the feature selected, I can do the keystrokes edit geographic vertex move. You can see why I double clicked because that's a little bit easier. So now I'm just going to move this up, kind of maintaining that path. I'll move this. Oh, that was not in common, actually. Close to common, but not common. So I can go back and clean that up later. So I'm just kind of following this draw here. You can see how the stream is moving, even though I'm just editing the polygon. Just hit enter to stop adding. Follow this around here. Follow that. Let's see here. I'm just doing this really quick. You could obviously spend quite a bit more time being a little more accurate with this. But we just want to end up with something close. So I'm switching back. I'm just using right click here, switching back to add. Now I'm adding, hitting enter to stop adding. Right click. Now I'm selecting move. Just going to kind of tighten that up. Okay, so now that's looking pretty good. Obviously the stream was not in perfect common, so it didn't move. We can clean that up. So I'm going to switch back to the stream layer now. Double click on that. Switching over to move. I didn't need to do that. That's just habit. Okay, grab, hitting the G key on the keyboard to grab that vertice, which puts those back in common. And now you can see that they're in common because when I move that, everything is moving along with it. Okay, so that's really nice. Through time, you come back through here, you want to move some stuff, everything's perfect now. Also, we have this set up pretty nicely in that draw. We could take GPS points in the field, bring those back in, verify that that's straight, or maybe you trust the 1 meter data. Okay, nice. So now, even though we just got all of that set, let's go ahead and split this just to keep this training going here. I'm going to go ahead and use the split feature tool, and we're going to cut this off. But first what I want to do is figure out what is 50 feet away from the stream. So I'm going to buffer that stream using the keystrokes edit geographic buffer buffer. So that's a 50-foot buffer on that. And I don't think I have a buffer, so I'm going to send the buffer to a new layer. These default settings are basically good. I'm going to call the new layer buffer. And now we know roughly 50 feet, well, exactly 50 feet from the stream, assuming the stream is actually in the right location. Okay, so now I want to split this sample THP layer on that 50 feet. So this is kind of a more advanced editing process, but it's just good to show it. So I'm going to comment this this is what I want to use. So I'm just going to grab that first vertice, and I think I'm going to start this comment. So there's a couple ways to accomplish this, but for now, I think I'll use the common command. So I'm hitting C on the keyboard, and that starts a common. It sort of shows you all the possible paths. In this case, we just have that buffer, so it's all just one color. And let's see here, I want to go all the way out to here. So I zoomed in and hit C again, and it shows you where that line's going to go. Is this the route that you want to use? Yes. It is possible that it could have gone the other direction, but in this case, yes, that looks good. I'm going to click yes. Now we have that drawn. When we're splitting a feature, general knowledge, there's a lot more training that can go in here, but starting on the outside of the polygon, you cut through the polygon, and you want to end up on the outside. Technically, I am on the outside right there. So just to view this, I'll scroll back out. I'm going to hit enter to go ahead and split that. And there we go. Now we've got two different pieces. This piece is not intended to be harvested with the THP, so I'm just going to delete it. Edit geographic, delete, delete. And we don't need this buffer anymore. Edit geographic, delete, delete. Okay, cool. So there is our first unit buffered at 50 feet from that stream, and we can do more work with the attribute information, but we're basically ready to go on to potentially the next unit. So I already showed you buffer, but what you might do next is edit geographic. Well, actually, let's turn those planning units back on, because that's what we're using to make this plan. And I'll select this guy, edit geographic buffer, edit geographic buffer. Sometimes it pays to just say those commands out loud. I don't want to cut anything within 300 feet, so I'm going to do 300 feet. I already have a buffer layer now, so I'm going to send that to the buffer layer. So there's 300 feet. Now with that shape, I'm going to do select geographic touching. Those are the keystrokes. And I want to select all of the planning units around there, so I'll say OK. So basically these would be the planning units that I don't want to use next. Um, and so you could pick any of these other units out there. What you might do is just copy these to a temp layer, temporary layer, edit geographic copy. And you could call this layer like, I don't know, can't use or something, polygon. Okay, so now we know we can't use any of these. Throw a fill on there or something. Diamond, okay, okay. Okay, so we can't use any of those, so now we know we have all of these planning units available. This one looks nice and easy. There's no streams, so you might pick that one and continue on making all the units that you want to make. Okay, so this video is getting pretty long now. I think I've demonstrated a bit of the power in here. I just want to show quickly some of the other options that just about all districts have access to. We have these slope rasters, which are pretty interesting, definitely in this planning process. I think they could be useful too. So this is a slope 30-50, so anything that's yellow is a slope between 30 and 50, and then anything over 50 is red. So you can see pretty quickly, well, let's just check our unit here. Yeah, you might have some pretty steep areas in this unit. Not sure what that necessarily means. Looks like we've got potentially some sort of old road cut or maybe a skid trail or some sort of a path in there. Not sure. There's a lot of detail in these. Let's look at the slope incremental. Again, these are all made off or built off of 1 meter LiDAR data, so they're pretty darn accurate. Again, that's kind of sticking out to me as something. Not sure what, but this could be really useful, I think, going through and checking the rest of your planning units. So let's say we wanted to maybe use this unit for our next unit. Turn that back on and oh, look how far off that stream is. That's interesting. But yeah, might be useful in making some decisions there. Okay, so obviously this is just an overview video and it's just a demonstration and everything kind of came fast. There's everything that I've talked about is in the manual available for training. There is a training bit of the manual that goes over editing and advanced editing and talks about commonality, grabbing, and goes into a lot of detail on everything that I've gone over here. And anything that I haven't talked about, all these toolbars, just about everything in Atlas has been covered in that manual. So feel free to run through there if you have any questions. All right, thank you.